Happening now. We want to welcome our viewers from across the United States and around the world. This is the EdTech Situation Room. Good morning, good day, good evening. This is EdTech Situation Room, episode number 341 on December 4th, 2024. And even though for those watching on video, my head is squished to the bottom of my webcam for some reason, my name is Jason Neiffer, and I am the Executive Director of the Montana Digital Academy, the state virtual school located on the beautiful University of Montana campus located in fabulous Western Montana. And joining me tonight, as always, and apparently appreciably taller than I am. Good evening, Dr. Wes Fryer. Join us tonight from Charlotte, North Carolina. How are you tonight, sir?
Hello, Jason. I am doing good and glad that we can make our connection. You have been a busy beaver of late. Of course, we had a holiday week and stuff as well, but glad to be here and so much to talk about. So yeah, good to be here on a Wednesday night. Is this another stock background, or are you in usual place?
I am. Nope. This is a stock background. I'm trying to get this camera to unfunkify here because everyone really wants to be super close up on the beard. Is a stock Apple background? Actually, I think.
Okay.
So
all right.
I'm pretty sure that is the Apple campus, like a picture of the Apple campus somewhere, but. It is pretty impressive. Like there's this background, which is Apple campus, and that background, and I'm assuming this is somewhere, on the Apple campus in Cupertino.
Oh, okay. All right, there you go. And are you on the MacBook Pro now, or what are you?
Well, I got it. I'm not using it tonight. I'm on my my Mac Mini M1 at home, and I'm also kind of straddling two homes right now, as I hang out with my parents a little bit more. But I did get the MacBook in the mail, and it is beautiful. And the chip is super fast, and more importantly, I did get more RAM than I probably needed. I got the 48 gigs of RAM, which is just stupid, right?
That just seems incredible. Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And it's what it's particularly good at. And I had some experience of this over the weekend. As longtime listeners of the podcast might know that my in-laws own a cabin on the Missouri River in outside of Great Falls, about an hour outside of Great Falls, and it is completely off the grid. So they could get Starlink down there if they want to. They don't want to. I would like Starlink down there, but it's always an opportunity for me to go completely off the grid for 48 hours every year. And this year, I had local large language models. And because I had this ridiculous amount of RAM on the laptop, I was able to load up some really functional local LLMs. And what I ended up doing was something kind of silly. The kind of weird stuff when you don't have any work stuff to do and you're bored and you're playing with, a large language model. What I did was create about 2/3 of a maybe 20 or 30 page book on it's called Education, the role-playing game. And so I had to create a role-playing game about being a teacher, which maybe is kind of silly, but I did put up on Blue Sky and LinkedIn the prompt I came up with, which was to give the character sheet for Education, the role-playing game, to ChatGPT, one that you've been having the memory turned on. And then it creates a character player sheet for you for Education, the role-playing game. And what was super funny about it, there's a variety of reasons why it was entertaining, but it did, in my equipment, it gave me the mug of endurance for coffee, and it knows I'm a coffee drinker apparently, but I think there was the planner of infinite pages, and just really D&D stuff for kind of high-end nerds. And it's kind of funny because one of my former students commented on the post and said, "You really reached peak nerd, haven't you?" And it's like, well, I have to admit that that's true. So yeah. So no holiday wasted to engage in a little nerddom, you might say. So
there you go. Well, we've had holidays past where there's been a lot of Minecraft going on and Minecraft servers set up and different things. So the off-grid experience can sometimes be a bit of a fast from technology, but that's okay. In the age of AI, there's other things you can do. You're like doing aerobics tonight.
Yeah, we're really rocking it here, and
we are
just not making it even a little bit better.
Listening to the podcast, you are missing out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And then wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
really
hey,
rocking it today,
well,
everyone. So, Wes, I don't think this is about my webcam issues. What is EdTech Situation Room all about?
well, it's really in a simulated puppet show where we attempt to move ourselves all over the screen in a wild way and just, get everybody disoriented. No, we are going to talk about the tech news. We have taken we took a week off. I think maybe we're just gone 1 week, but we are going to talk about the most recent week's technology news through an educational lens, and we have gathered a number of articles on our Google Doc. We are now at episode 341. And so this Google Doc has episodes 201 to present. And I guess we're going to have to, well, we've got a ways to go before we hit episode 400. But the topics tonight include AI with a lot of subcategories, including automation agents, AI and dumbing down, privacy, health, search, hacking AI, and tool exploration, labor, and then other cool stuff. We've got some social media articles, a media literacy, actually video, which is tremendous. It's one of the best news clips I've ever seen about media literacy. So I definitely want to talk about that. Privacy, hardware, and the tech correction, tech regulation, Google, Microsoft, and of course, our geeks of the week. So this is, as we often have, quite a lineup of articles. And I know that we will not cover them all, but I will say, as I mentioned to Jason, I've spent at least 2 hours, maybe more, over the break working with ChatGPT to create a custom GPT. And I've tried this before to basically do all of the post-processing for one of our shows. Now that ChatGPT can go live on the internet and search, it can grab a transcript directly of a YouTube video. And so you don't have to use another app to do that, to feed it. And so I will play with it a little bit more, but as some of you may know, if you're not just listening to us on YouTube, we're a little far behind on getting our posts shared, and the practice has usually been to compress those with Handbrake, upload those to Amazon S3, and then have some custom descriptions and then show notes of everything we talk about, and then have a Substack post that has stuff we talked about, things we didn't. And I say stuff, they're articles. So anyway, I'm I used, Jason, the Geek of the Week that you had shared, where it was the post generator I don't remember what it's called, polisher, but it's a generator improver. And that was useful. And I actually used ChatGPT, a little bit of Claude, but I'm not paying for that. So I ran out of tokens or whatever it is that you have for credits. But then I used Gemini a little bit, and then back to ChatGPT. So anyway, it was just extended AI experience. But are you not having a play date tomorrow? Maybe?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm so excited about this. And first of all, thanks to Gia Majira for answering the email this was 8 or 9 months ago when we were looking to adopt the Playdate model. But AIPlaydate.org is where the information's at. If you are in Western Montana, as part of our huge podcast audience, feel free to stop by at 4:00 at the Phyllis J. Washington College of Education. But we're kind of calling it our initial AI Playdate. We do have about 35 to 40 people coming. There are school leaders and teachers and professors, and a couple members of the media are going to be there. We're really excited about it. The Montana Public Radio reporter, education reporter, is going to stop by, but we're going to try the Playdate model out tomorrow. And I hope to have, over the next couple of months, there's a lot of energy around AI and education in the state of Montana right now. And I am looking forward to, as we navigate the legislature and work with them to get resources behind AI plays. I think Montana is going to be in really great shape to be leaders in this space, and it's fun to be part of these really wonderful conversations. And and I feel like I have to mention every time I talk about very positively about AI that I'm as cynical about it as I am positive. But I think that's really the approach we need to take as educators, that we need to be clear-eyed about the risks involved with these these technologies. But at this point, in my mind, it's a workforce development issue. And even if you detest AI, you should certainly know how it works, and also be able to spot clear signs of AI generated content that may be disinformational in nature. And so, yeah, super excited about tomorrow. Our team is really excited about it, and we'll probably host at least 2 more play dates sometime in the spring.
That is awesome. Well, I wonder, I mean, we've done in December, like shopping and gifts and things like that. But I would love to hear about how this goes in a debrief. And I don't know if y'all are going to plan to do, sort of like a podcast roundtable discussion. That could even be something we could do in the context of the show, but we have done some of these virtually. I have not participated in an AI play date in person. I've decided to host 2 different events, a pod camp unconference in the fall, and that happens Saturday here in Charlotte, and then go ahead and organize an ed camp for Charlotte, and that's going to be the first Saturday of February. And so anyway, I think that well, in addition to doing some writing and other kinds of things, I want to invest in this too, because I'm just absolutely positive that it is a positive. I'm actually positive it's positive. I'm positive that it is a helpful and constructive strategy that is specific and meets people kind of where they are with, which is all over the place with these tools. So I'm very excited that you guys are going to do this and pull it off, and can't wait to hear the report after you're done. So
yep, and we will definitely follow up next week with more information.
Sounds great.
Well, Wes, we've talked a whole 20 minutes already, or 15 minutes already, and haven't gotten any articles. Where would you like to start tonight, sir?
Okay, well, let's start with the media literacy article, and it actually is a video, but this is from CBS News, and this is from November 28th, and the title of the article, this is from CBS Mornings Plus, a 7th grade media literacy class demonstrates how to handle tough conversations this Thanksgiving. I had not heard of the teacher that they cite and interview, but it's just such a well done interview. And so Cynthia Sandler, I think, who's in New York, is the teacher, and talking about how important it is to be able to have productive conversations, thinking about holidays, but trying to develop skills to empathize, to relate, to question without attacking, sharing insights from research, offering ways to verify information, trying to not politicize media literacy and critical thinking, because these are not things that should go with one political party or not. It's really thinking. And I absolutely love how they talk about media literacy is literacy. And this is just so vital. And so they have a grant, I think, from the News Literacy Foundation to be able to have this class. And so I was just very encouraged by this and would recommend it. It's a great video, and it's very encouraging. I was looking for the teacher on Blue Sky and didn't find her. I found her on YouTube, and she does news shows that she posts on her YouTube channel. And then I also found her on Twitter, but she hadn't posted for quite a while. So anyway, just very cool to see that kind of high level mainstream media coverage of media literacy education, and such a positive article as well. Highly recommend that.
Yeah, that's super great. And I know, Dr. Fryer, you have been beating the drum of media literacy for a good couple decades now, so it's not new advocacy to you. But I just can't express enough that if you weren't talking about this, no matter your level of student and no matter your content area in your classroom, then I think you need to really think about that, how to adopt that, again, no matter what you teach, because I do think we're entering an era where, people can do some really great things with AI to create content, not the least of which is student-facing content that's more personalized and more adapted to particular student needs. But as easy as it is to use those tools, it's also easy to use tools that create huge flow of mis or disinformation. And so we're in an era where we need to be extra thoughtful about this, because these conversations are not going to get any easier.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, where to next?
Well, let's talk a little bit about This article really piqued my interest because we've talked about it before. This is from Consumer Reports, and it talks about what is referred to as the hidden lifespan of smart devices, and it talks about a Federal Trade Commission report released on Tuesday. So this would have been last Tuesday, I believe. That 89% of connected devices that they reviewed, from glucose monitors to light bulbs, don't have any information about when they will stop working. So in other words, they have no expiration date. And we've talked about this a couple of times before on the podcast. And for teachers that are constantly told no when they want to plug in smart devices to your school network, this article goes into a lot of information why that's the case. But part of the problem, especially with the way our supply chain supplies kind of cheap technology to really the world, but in this particular case, the United States, is that oftentimes companies that don't exist for very long will create, hundreds of thousands of smart plugs or hundreds of thousands of smart light bulbs or all sorts of interesting technologies, and they work in most cases, but they're not updated. They don't get firmware updates. They stop supporting them at a certain point, or the company just disappears in a lot of cases. And that means that device on your network can become a vector for inviting bad actors basically onto your network, bypassing your router, because that device is given internet access, oftentimes to manage it in an app or something, which means it can be a tunnel into your network. And imagine for a moment, if you put a smart device on in your school, and suddenly now there is a smart plug or smart lights or whatever on your network, and someone can then use that to hack into and find vulnerabilities in your network. And that's something very, very important to think about. But I'll go back to our original advice. Don't buy from brands you haven't heard of before. Just because they're reviewed well doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to be a long-term viable solution in the future. But also, go into the apps, find out if there are firmware updates, find out if they're being supported anymore or even being sold anymore. And if they're not, chances are that they've been abandoned, and that you should get something else to replace that device, or maybe consider not using a smart device in that situation at all.
So a couple thoughts about this. Number one, I think I probably told you the story of my Chinese firmware on the lights in Oklahoma, and the updates, and because it's just weird to see, like, on the network, that these light switches have been uploading content, and I was able to see that, on my Google Nest. And it's like, why is that? And then when I was updating it, it's in Mandarin Chinese, and I have no idea what it says, what it's doing, and just weird. And I actually left those installed in the old house and just abandoned them. But I don't know if you heard of Firewalla. I've seen ads for this a lot. The cybersecurity firewall for home.
I've seen ads for it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at this and wondered if it's something that I should consider, because we do have like 30 something devices on our internet, on our home network, our Internet of Things network. The author of that article, by the way, is Stacy Higginbotham, who I just love. She used to work for GigaOM, and I tracked her for a long time with a Twitter list I'd set up for GigaOM authors. But she is a super great IoT expert and security expert. So, it's something that I wonder about. I think that we do need to be aware of these devices. And one of the things that we talked about a long time ago on the show was the Mirai botnet. And that's one of these crazy stories to look up. And it has to do with Minecraft and some young people who were wanting to find a way to basically protect Minecraft servers, but they ended up creating one of the most devastating botnets that we've ever seen, that almost took down the whole DNS system. And it just is a really, really wild story. So unfortunately, as is the case with a number of security issues like our power grid, things are so distributed, and there's a big lack of centralization, which in some cases means that things aren't as much of a individual target. Like somebody could hit this one, like for instance, what was CrowdStrike? There was thousands and thousands of computers affected by CrowdStrike, which wasn't a malicious hack. It was an update gone bad. But yeah, there are just so many different Internet of Things devices, and it is a real Wild West, and there's not regulation about it. And, many of us are going to probably run things, in our home network far beyond how long we should run them. The other thing that kind of segues to is a 404 podcast that I put on here. And have you heard about the Redbox abandoned boxes and all what's going on with all of that?
No, but it's funny because I was at a Walgreens a couple weeks ago and went in and saw two big abandoned red boxes there.
Yeah.
So do tell.
Okay, so here is a podcast. I put this under AI privacy because the first half of this podcast, which is from today from 404 Media, which I'm not a subscriber for, this is just the free version, is titled "Your Blue Sky Posts Are Probably Training AI," and there was evidently a huge hoopla over this because Meta or Facebook with Instagram and Threads, now X or Twitter, these are not open APIs that people can really peer into or even, grab content to scrape content. Well, Blue Sky and Mastodon, not even mentioned in this podcast, incidentally, these open platforms are wide open for scraping, which means people are going to go in and grab them. And so people have gone in and created these really large training models of like 1 million posts and 3 million posts. And I guess they even include deleted posts and just all kinds of content and personal information, and it's just kind of a Wild West. So that's a good podcast to listen to for the first half, but the second half talks about what's happened with Redbox, because Redbox declared the worst kind of bankruptcy that you can, which isn't like we're going to salvage anything. It's just like, we're out of money, we're done, we quit. And so all of these really heavy steel machines that allowed people to check out their DVDs from Redbox outside of Walgreens or CVS or Walmart or whatever have just been abandoned. And so now I guess the headquarters or whatever, the head admins of these companies have told local managers not to do this, but local managers had authorized people to come pick these up. So there's a whole DIY community now, and there's a big Reddit that is figuring out how to make these work so that you can have this Redbox in your own garage. You load it up with your own DVDs as well as the DVDs that were left in there, and then you can say, I think I'd like to rent this. And then you rent it from yourself, from your own Redbox. And it's and just the little stories. It was impossible for some reason, even when you had this, to rent some, because some of them still work and you can still get the DVDs out. And of course, people are just keeping them because there's nobody coming to see if you return it. The original movie Twister, it was hard coded inside the firmware of Redbox not to rent it after a certain time. And so it was impossible to get Redbox to dispense the original Twister movie. But the DIY community on Reddit had figured it out, and the code changed. And so anyway, it is really kind of wild. But one of the things that they say in the 404 Media podcast, I listened to this today when I was having my dinner, is it talks about your point of all of the waste, the e-waste, and these things that are designed for Internet of Things or whatever. We're such a consumer society, but the technology side of this, very disposable, and there's just a whole lot of waste. And of course, these Redbox, I don't know how much they weigh, but they're hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And there are companies that are coming to dispose of them and try to, scrap them. But evidently, if you talk to the right people, you have to be careful because these things are like not just plugged into 110 or 220, like they're plugged in directly to the grid. And so there's a real danger of people electrocuting themselves if they don't know what they're doing. So, don't just think you can pull up with your pickup truck and they're like bolted into the ground and stuff like that. But it's wild, and it's a sign of the times. And I had heard a news report about this a while back that they were like telling their employees basically, you're done. You don't need to go back and maintain this red box anymore because we're just going to stop operations. So kind of a wild story. So you might even inquire locally, what are they going to do? Because some of these are just being hauled off for scrap. It's just kind of a wild story, but it does the intersection of technology and how long are these things going to last, and then what are we going to do with this technology, plus the whole DIY community and the ways in which hackers or people that are DIYers can figure out how to do all kinds of things. This wild.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I mean I've only been kind of sucked into this part of the nerdle community a couple of different times, but I do love the whole thing around what happens to hardware that just stops being supported and gets taken over by the community. Here's another example of this. The Spotify Thing is a device that Spotify released this year that's supposed to be, in fact, I think it was called Car Thing. And it's a device that if you're in a car that doesn't have a kind of a smart car operating system in it, you could just mount it to your dashboard. It hooked up via Bluetooth to your phone and then allowed you to play Spotify over your car radio. And earlier this year, they announced that they would be refunding the money of anyone that bought one, and they would just stop supporting, I think, December 2024. Well, so I ended up getting a Car Thing in a box that my wife won at a raffle, and I started poking into it. And of course, people are now creating custom firmware so that you can do other stuff on it. It's a really slow chip that backs it, and so it's not like it's you're playing Doom on it or something. But the bottom line is that I love that part of the community, and that's one of the reasons why I applaud the efforts on the part of courts to make sure that the right to repair is exactly what allows you to do these pieces. And we talked about this like 4 or 5 years ago, but I need to look at what happened. At one point, Samsung was going to allow you to unlock the operating system on older phones and just be able to load your own stuff on it, which I think would have led to a renaissance of bizarre, geeky devices in people's homes made up of old Samsung Galaxy S8s or something. But I'll need to look where that particular piece went. But I love that community, the kind of nerdle maker community that does things like picks up abandoned red box tanks and puts them in their garage and hacks the firmware and gets the DVDs out of there and puts their own collection in there. That stuff I think is pretty darn great.
So I put the 404 article from November 28th, the red box removal team. 24,000 abandoned DVD rental kiosks. And then it's the story of some of the people who are recovering them. There is a project, I don't know if we've had this on the show, where you can even download the stickers or whatever, but it's like you make your own kind of community blockbuster to go check out a DVD, sort of like you have these different like free libraries. And I don't think you have to bring those back. It's just like, here are books, come get a book, take a book, leave a book. One thing that would be a disadvantage of that would be, you might end up having people, I guess, coming into your neighborhood or your community that you may not want to just increase a lot of traffic. But it is interesting. I don't know if you are still keeping a supply of DVDs, but it's interesting to think about. You might want to have some DVDs on hand to be able to watch some stuff offline. I'm not saying the grid's going to go down, but you'd have to have power to do that. But I mean, if you wanted to define yourself as a geeky neighborhood, get one of these red boxes, hack the firmware, set it up as a public library DVD that people can just come in, and say, hey, I'm gonna check out a DVD tonight. I mean,
Yeah, that would be. I would agree that would be pretty darn nerdy.
You will have defined yourself on the absolute cutting edge of DIY nerddom. So
Yeah,
let us know if you if you do that. But hey, with 24,000 of these floating around, it may be coming to a neighborhood near you. So let us know if you spot one.
I taught computer science for just a couple of years in classrooms, but because we were doing Cisco curriculum to learn how to network, and I the first couple of years I got a lot of pretty great nerdy students, as it turns out, but they would get bored in the middle of the semester, and we hacked all sorts of things as part of that. And I just can imagine backing a truck up to the loading dock at the high school I taught at, with one of these boxes for us to turn into something wonderful and amazing. So that's an opportunity for someone out there for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well, you've got a whole lot of AI articles in here, so I'm thinking you need to jump into those. What are some of the most engaging ones?
Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on. I would like to kind of start off with my experiment here on a couple of different tools. The first thing is that play.ai is a tool that I just discovered in the last couple of weeks, but it is a tool that essentially allows you to clone audio, or clone your voice in audio. And I've heard of a lot of these, and I have also seen a couple of instances where, like speakers would go in the audience and clone someone. But what's super interesting about this is that it's dirt easy, and you can buy, obviously, quite a variety of services from them. For example, one of the things that I'm playing with right now is actually a call bot where you can call and talk to me about my program, right? So it's a parent that wants to find out more about Montana Digital Academy. So, but it is stupid easy to clone your voice. And I'm trying to log in here on my phone because I know I can't do it on I can't share it on go log out, playground. There it is. So here's an example of a narration, and I'm going to use my voice, which is the Jason new voice, and I can just generate speech. It has some auto speech in there. Oh no, that's Angelo. I don't want Angelo. I would like, Jason. And I've done this a couple of different ways. One of them is I've also watching the world go by. Nope, that's not who I want. It wasn't so much its color or shape, but the way it was moving. She squinted to see.
How much did you have to train it to get it to sound like you?
30 seconds, Wes. And they give you a script to work with, right? And we've talked about this a little bit before, that one of the things that I am concerned about in regards to AI is the fact that there seems to be so many why is this not working? Oh, there we go. Generate speech. There are tons of models out there where you can upload hours of video or speak into the microphone for 30 minutes. Well, this one does a really good job. Something caught her eye. It wasn't so much its color or shape, but the way it was moving. She squinted to see if she could better understand what it was and where it was going.
That is uncannily good.
But it didn't help. Yeah.
And again, that's not something you recorded. This is something it generated based on 30 seconds of your training data.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? And then my work buddy Mike, he's my buddy too, but my buddy Mike and he recorded 30 seconds, and we could have conversations going back and forth. And we're going to look at this as a potential play for like a help phone call bot, something, right? But the fact that you can train someone's voice in 30 seconds also means then that's a security risk you need to be thinking about. And between Dr. Fryer and myself, there's probably hundreds of hours of our voice just on YouTube alone, which means that it would be really easy to clone one of our voices. And so, just be thoughtful about that. But also, in fact, I was talking to a legislator early today, and she had a really interesting idea. That imagine for a moment with a struggling reader having a mom record her voice, train her voice on something in order to help a student, a struggling student through some reading coaching. And there's all sorts of ways I think that you could use this technology, but it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be, not that I'm going to be giving people ideas, but we've already had cases of phone calls from people purporting to be relatives and,
Yeah.
tricking, older, grandparents or others. And there's been cases of money transfers from people who are, impersonating a CEO and some things like that. I think some of that was like emails. It wasn't just even audio, but um, I think the tools that are going to be available and used by criminals, that are going to be used in, unfortunately, creative and malicious ways, are going to be bad. So I don't know. These are things that we need to plan for. I know some people have code words that they have. We did have a meeting actually over Thanksgiving. Well, it was at one of our dinners. We were talking about some emergency preparedness and some emergency plans and some communication plans and just, things that we need to plan for. I really hope that we're not going to see, global conflict and power grids go down and devastating natural disasters, but there's all kinds of things that are going on in the world. And in terms of being prepared, like there's just a lot of things that we should be ready for. And that's one of the reasons why we want password managers and try to, lock down our accounts, harden our accounts, all that stuff. But I think that we probably should pursue some articles and some strategies for what people are individually doing to prepare for this kind of an attack. And this would be a spear phishing phone attack where someone, and this could be, your parent or your spouse or your child or, someone who's a coworker, someone who knows you, but then has access to, I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, the sky's the limit for what people can creatively think about, people doing. But especially when it comes to like money transfers and stuff like that, I don't have the answers to this. I know that some people have a code word, but we probably ought to be talking in advance about these attacks and then giving ourselves some kind of a decision matrix to say, okay, before I transfer money or before I do something else, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
And it very well could just be calling the person directly, right? And that's something we've heard from banks and stuff. And when we were in the middle of actually wiring the down payment for this home that we're in a couple years ago. I ended up getting a phone call that almost tricked me into giving away information that I shouldn't have from, someone who was claiming to, be representing the bank and Amazon, and there'd been some, shipments and whatever. And so whenever you do get one of those things unsolicited, which I don't even hardly take calls at all that are not in my contact list, it's just a good idea to say, thank you, hang up, and I'll call you back. And then you call the bank yourself. So anyway, that's a long way of saying these are serious issues and we need to figure out what to try to do to plan for them.
Well, and man, you and I are just the king of rabbit holes lately. I got a call. This was 5 years ago from someone that was trying to say that I had tax liens put against me by the IRS. And I knew it was fake the whole time, and I kept the person on for like 6 or 7 minutes just to waste their time, and I was enjoying it. But I had a very physical response to it, right? Like it just seemed so real for about 30 seconds. And if you want to get a sense of how these work, I mean, the scammer revenge sites that publish YouTube videos where people string along scammers only to waste their time, or in some cases hack their machines. The tricks they use, screaming at people, threatening, and especially if you're not very savvy to some of these methods, I could see very easily, and I have My parents are 75 and 80, and particularly my mom is, it has a lot of years of experience as a bookkeeper. But I could see a scenario where, on an off day or in a situation, or if my voice comes over, that she might be inclined, just like any concerned family member would, to make some bad decisions there. And yeah, I think it's a real issue, and it's only going to get worse.
And I'm reminded of this the SIFT web literacy framework. My kids have just started their final projects for this big media literacy unit that we've been doing about Fruit Loop conspiracy theories and lateral reading in SIFT. And the first step is stop. And I do know that when emotions are high, and I mean, think about some kind of tragedy, a car accident, a fire, a school shooting, something that is the potential for injury and a loss of life is there. I mean, our blood pressure is probably going to be immediately elevated, and
Yeah.
we're going to, kind of go into a panicked mode. And so, just like we rehearse a variety of things in school, and different organizations will have different kinds of rehearsals. I know that, penetration testing for cybersecurity is becoming more common, where organizations, and you can spend literally an unlimited amount of time in this preventative stuff. And so, I don't think want to go too overboard with it, but it can be eye-opening to see what people's gullibility and vulnerability is to phishing emails and to different kinds of attacks. And so anyway, it's something to think about, and I'm pretty big. I'm pretty big on the safety. I don't know, I think I didn't put it as a geek of the week, but I posted Facebook friends advice or something like that this week, because it's just crazy to me. Facebook friends safety tips. I'll put the link into. It's just crazy to me, the number of people that have lost control over their Facebook account, have multiple accounts, bad actors. We've got a friend who we knew in Oklahoma is down in South Texas, and some kind of a bad actor has taken over a Facebook account and is posting crypto stuff, but they're also posting Happy Thanksgiving and some pumpkins and other things that don't look malicious. But then, hey, I want to tell you, friends, cryptocurrencies allowed me to pay off all this debt. And if you weren't savvy to what's going on, you'd think that this person is actually posting these links, and those kinds of attacks are just part of the normal today, which is unfortunate. But yeah, these AI,
and all true.
And these AI tools are just going to add another layer to it. So I definitely think it's worth talking to our family members about and raising that possibility, because sometimes just, even if you don't rehearse something, but you've heard about it in advance, it could trigger a pause, before, panic and rash action. So. Oh, all right. Well, what else?
Let me do a couple other quick tools here.
Yeah.
I don't know when this happened, but if you've got the desktop version of Grammarly on Mac OS, and I do pay for a pro account for that. And in fact, I got a fabulous Black Friday deal that they were giving a year. You could put a year's extension on your account for half price. So I did that. So I have Grammarly, advanced Grammarly through 2026 now. And I've always loved Grammarly. I think it's a great tool, but they have started mimicking some of the functionality now of the integrated writing tools that exist in the newest version of Mac OS Sequoia. And I didn't really know that until the other day. I was in Word and I had selected some text, and this little dialog screen popped up that brought up a Grammarly interface that allowed me to do all of the things that the writing tools directly in Mac OS would do. And I know I did see a couple of videos kind of trashing on the writing tools that are in the newest version of Sequoia. But what I would say is that, especially for quick emails or changing the tone of something, or especially the proofreading part, it's pretty impressive stuff. And if you are a Grammarly Pro user, I don't know if these pop up on the free version. I'm assuming they don't. But if you're a Grammarly Pro user, make sure that you're downloading the desktop version on Windows and Mac, of the software, because it adds some interesting functionality that is beyond just the little pop up that tells you that it can help edit or find grammar errors.
I don't know if we've talked about it, but it reminds me the ads for Apple Intelligence. Have you seen these and how they're
No.
somewhat insulting? I didn't put any of these in there. Yeah, but I mean, it makes people look like who's going to use Apple Intelligence, folks that are just lazy and don't want to work.
Oh yeah,
Or
I think actually we talked about this last
maybe we
time. Yeah,
did.
those ads
Yeah.
are terrible.
Right. And it's like, what group did Apple hire for this? I mean, because normally Apple ads are pretty amazing. So anyway, Grammarly is not pursuing the same sort of marketing techniques. And it is just super interesting to think about what these tools, how they're going to be integrating AI and the ways that they're going to differentiate themselves in the marketplace. And I certainly think one way is by being so convenient, right? I mean,
Yeah.
now we're like, okay, go to ChatGPT. And my wife was saying the other day, she's using ChatGPT on her phone almost every day now for different things.
Yeah.
And it's very useful, but we're going to continue to see that tight integration right within email, right within your writing environment of Google Docs or whatever. And so, again, that's where Google's probably going to have a considerable advantage, or Microsoft, depending upon where we tend to spend a lot of our time. So I'm glad to hear that Grammarly is continuing to be a helpful tool for you.
Yeah, it really is. And it also got me through my dissertation as well. So one other quick tool I want to highlight, and some other time I want to talk about 11 Labs, because 11 Labs is pretty cool. But freepick.com has been a long time, really solid kind of free place to go and get vectors and photographs over a long period of time. But they've recently added some AI generator tools onto their website, including upscaling tools. And you can certainly buy something there for $6 a month, which is actually a pretty great price. You get 84,000 AI credits a year, and yeah, you wouldn't use that really at all, but you can generate 84,000 images with that, which I can't imagine what you would do. And also 560 videos. But if you're just looking to generate images, with a free account, you can generate 20 images a day. And they have some of the newer models that are available, including Flux, which is, I don't know if we've talked about Flux or not, but Flux is a really, really great image generation model. It does things differently than like Stable Diffusion and some of the other AI generation models. But if you are looking for a quick and easy tool that costs no money to be able to generate quick images for whatever reason, especially in classroom use, FreePic has really taken on yes, we have this huge collection of easily downloadable media assets that would be great for student projects, etc. But now they also have this pretty wonderful AI generator as well.
I wonder what schools are adopting for policies in terms of AI utilization. I've probably mentioned that at our school we're using Flint AI, but that is the only AI tool that students are authorized to use right now. It's fully tracked and documented, so every conversation that students have with the AI can be viewed by IT, and then if it's in an activity that the teacher
Yeah.
created, I think the teacher can as well. But this is really, really interesting, and that would be some of these things. Yeah, I've wondered about. I probably should be writing some articles, submitting to some journals,
Yeah, me
and
too.
that would be a very interesting one that could possibly be relatively easy to find out, which would just be school districts in Montana, school districts in North Carolina. What is your policy with respect to student AI use? And surely there's some people that are out there doing that, but it's pretty interesting. And I think that to the work that you're doing, Jason, with administrators, it would be informative to know what the range of policies are, what the example policies are. I'm reminded back, years ago, Karen Montgomery, who I worked with at AT&T, we did a session at ISTE and then some other places on social media guidelines. And we were recommending that schools, have guidelines for faculty and staff when it came to social media, which is still a good idea. But anyway, have you run into any research, or do you have some resources where you found where these policies on AI use for students, for instance, are being made transparent and shared?
The short answer is no. And in fact, I know that this is an issue. In fact, heard the leader of the Montana School Boards Association talk about this issue today in a meeting I was in about AI, that it's moving so fast that I'm not sure if good policies that are strictly worded have met the test of time yet with some of these pieces. And I always remember some advice that our founding executive director, now retired, Bob Curry, used to give districts about distance learning policy. The last thing you want to do is set a policy that says we don't do any distance learning ever, 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 right? And he said, because you're going to end up with an instance where the student is absolutely best served by a distance learning program, and you're not going to be able to offer this to that student because you said that there's no circumstances in which we would support distance learning for students. And that's something that I thought a lot about in context of MTDA, my program, because even if you have distaste for distance learning, although I certainly would encourage you to give it a shot if you haven't checked out, thoughtfully planned distance learning, especially since the pandemic. It's also something that we run into where a district has kind of policied themselves into a corner. And I want to be really clear about my advocacy around AI, and I think Dr. Fryer, I don't speak for you, but I'm sure that you view something similar. We're not saying open up the floodgates and let's go all in on AI. I think that's a mistake, in the same way that opening up the floodgates 20 years ago and going all in on the internet would have been a mistake too. That you want to be really thoughtful about your policies and procedures here. But the bottom line is that this is moving so quickly that that I think we're in trouble if schools just wipe their hands of this and let the chips fall as they may. Because I saw this conversation a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn where a college professor for writing was talking about rebelling against AI and hell no and yada yada yada. And the best argument that I saw against that notion was that so you're telling me you want TikTok to teach kids how to use AI, right? That we should prefer that.
Yeah.
And that's a really good argument, right? That, we know this too from our own research at NTDA, that, there aren't a lot of positive, use AI for these reasons post aimed at high school and college students. It's primarily about how to get out of work and not about learning. And I think thoughtful adults experienced in pedagogy, can have a good voice here to really help students, with how these tools work and not just rely on fear.
And I absolutely think there is no substitute for using the tools yourself and having some of that personal experience, with the tool. I think back to some administrators that I have known through the years that just absolutely refused to use social media, yet had very strong opinions about social media. And I don't think that you can have an informed opinion today. I don't think that you can be literate today. We'll go that far without having a working knowledge based on experience with different kinds of AI tools. So it's incumbent that we find ways to do that. And things are moving fast. So got to collaborate, got to work with others, and we've got to be committed to being learners and hope and being thoughtful and intentional with the tools. So
yeah, totally. Couldn't agree more. And so, you and I have just been rabbit holes around it today. Let's do a couple other quick AI articles here. Well, first and foremost, I don't think we've broadcast since the explosion of blue sky. You want to talk about that for a moment? And I think there's also an article or two here about precisely that.
Yeah, Blue Sky has just exploded. And for those that don't know, like Twitter, like Threads, like Mastodon, um, we have these different microblogging platforms that are primarily designed to allow people to share short posts. And these could be, in the case of Twitter, I think it's 240 characters. We've also got Truth Social. Twitter's not Twitter anymore; it's X. But anyway, you've had an explosion of different tools, and it's meant that things are very fractured. But you also have, um, the opportunity to network and to be in environments where there is hopefully less of a dumpster fire vibe maybe going, less attacks, less vitriol. And so Blue Sky was originally founded by Twitter before Jack Dorsey sold it to Elon and friends. And it is designed to be an open format, and it is now federated like Mastodon, so that its posts can be shared. But you own your content. You have really, it's not an algorithmic. There's no advertising on it at all. Let me say that again. There's no advertising on Blue Sky at all. But there's a lot of different issues that come with this. So I think that I have. Did I put the John Green article? There's a fantastic video that John Green did, and I think I put it in here, where he's talking about how, this is under social media, downranking links. It's called Twitter and Threads Have Made a Huge Mistake. This is Hank's video from November 29th. And what he's saying, and this relates to Blue Sky, is that now if you share a hyperlink in Twitter or Facebook or Threads, the algorithm itself is actually downranking you and sharing your content less, because the platforms do not want you to leave the platforms. They want you to stay and remain engaged. So all of that to say, Blue Sky is fantastic, and it has exploded with educational participants. It really feels to me a lot like the 2007, 2008 era of Twitter with ISTE and whatever it was in NCCE or NECC at that point, probably. But anyway, just lots of excitement and people getting on. We're seeing, they're not Twitter chats, but we're seeing some chats happen. And I'm just seeing levels of engagement where I'm not feeling like I'm just sort of transmitting my information and broadcasting it out there, but I'm sharing it, and people are talking about it and interacting, and I'm interacting with others, and it's absolutely lovely. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. And it's starting to capture some of the mojo of those early Twitter days too. Like really positive conversations. There are Blue Sky chats that are starting to pop up all over the place. I think also, reader beware that one of my criticisms always of Twitter was that it's not a really great place to have a super complex conversation or a nuanced conversation. It's easier just to agree with I think it's a 300 character post is their limit for those pieces. But, in going back to connection and the ways that we can, find ways to be in each other's space, it's been super great. So I am very excited that this is now a possibility.
Here's a quick article I'd like to mention before we geek of the weekend. This is under tech correction, tech regulation. Did you hear about this FCC Universal Service Fund deal? The Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is a big deal. So this is from MSN, and this was from let's see, the 23rd, maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah, November 23rd. Supreme Court to review legality of FCC managed Universal Service Fund. Well, any of us who've worked in IT know about the Universal Service Fund, because this is E-rate, and it also provides discounts for folks in rural communities and lower income folks to be able to get connectivity. But E-rate has been a huge benefit to schools and libraries across the country. And this challenge, which is going to be heard by the Supreme Court, is that this executive branch group, it's not Congress, but it's the FCC, and there's appointed folks, and it's basically not Congress, has been overextending their constitutional bounds by managing the Universal Service Fund. And this could have some really dramatic impacts on E-rate and whether or not schools and libraries receive those sizable discounts on their telecommunications bills. Their was it category 1, and then the category 2 is the purchase of hardware, which is usually network infrastructure and routers and switches and hubs and all that kind of stuff. But that's a big deal. And the ways that the court has been going, it would seem to me that it's likely to that the folks bringing the suit are likely to win, and that would mean potentially a dramatic change, or maybe even the end to E-rate as we know it. So we'll be watching that and report back on that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see what January looks like when there actually is a Trump administration to report on. But the typical articles about they're going to end E-rate and they're going to end these kind of school facing programs because they're run through the Department of Education. I'm not saying that's not a concern. I'm just saying I'd like to see actual proposals before we go down too far down the rabbit hole on what may or may not be happening.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the number of court cases though that are happening and that are loading up is just really mind-boggling. So I guess it's probably good job security for lawyers. There's going to be a lot to talk about, and somebody's going to be paying a bill. So,
yep, absolutely.
All right. Anything else you'd like to do before we hit an hour?
Yeah, there's 1,000 articles I'd love to talk about, but I think it's maybe good to call an end next week for sure. However, I would like, actually next week, I'm not sure if I can do it next week, but the something I think we do need to talk about next time is both the potential sale of Chrome, Google selling Chrome to someone else.
Oh, yeah, right.
The Department of Justice demands,
right. Yeah.
Which seems like completely outside the realm of logic to me.
Did Hard Fork talk about that a week or so ago?
I don't remember if they did or not, but if they haven't, I hope they do.
I heard a podcast about that.
And then the other one is that there's wild rumors going around that, speaking of Chrome, that Chrome OS is going to move to an Android base, which I also think is a terrible idea. But I think both those topics would be an interesting topic for future shows.
Okay. Well, we'll also be
Dr. Fryer, what is your geek of the week?
Hey, I'm just going to do one today. Shocking. But it's the 12 days of AI. So shout out to Kevin Hodgson, who is Dog Tracks on the socials. And I think I saw him share this on Blue Sky. And so this is a initiative that is sponsored by the University of Arts London. They are currently in day 6 of the daily activities. And so I've kind of jumped in and just I went back to day 1. What it's getting me to do is play with AI. And so day 1 focused on Adobe Firefly. And I will admit that until today, I had not played with Adobe Firefly. And I was a bit underwhelmed with it compared to Ideogram and some other tools that I've used. But still, it was interesting to see how it has a timeline and just sort of the differences and nuance of how the interface works. And so this is free. And you can just sign up. They've got an Eventbrite. They'll send you a daily email. There's a way, I guess, with Teams that you can have some discussions with other people. But to give you an day 1 was Adobe Firefly. Day 2, creating art with AI. Day 3, AI mind maps and creating learning resources. Day 4, using generative AI to create multiple choice question activities. Jason, I wonder if they know about your wonderful custom GPT that you all have built at the Montana Digital Academy. Intellectual property and voice likeness. And then today is copyright and AI. So even if you did not start at the beginning as I did, I think this is an excellent catalyst for us to play with AI tools. And it's also a chance to be able to network with other people. So I'm excited to participate in the 12 days of AI this year.
That's wonderful, and I will take a look at that as well. That's super great. My geek of the week is a pretty simple one, but I keep going back to the fact that the simple AI tools I really think are a good way to advertise the power of AI to folks that otherwise don't get it. But this is a Chrome plugin called Summarize with ChatGPT, and you can just use it with a ChatGPT account, but it's much faster to actually go buy an API key to plug into this. We've talked a little bit about this in the past, but either way you do it, you just simply put it into Chrome, you press one button, and it creates a summary based on a prompt that you create, right? So the way I do it is I ask it to summarize this article with one paragraph and then 5 subpoints underneath. But if you're going through research and you're trying to focus on which articles are the ones you want to give a full, detailed reading of, or don't know which ones that you may want to narrow down to share with students, this can really help your research across. And I use this plugin probably 25 times a day with my API key, and my charge last month for it was 19 cents. So I am tracking my API keys and what I'm using them for. And in fact, I've been giving away or not giving away, but sharing API keys with all sorts of services with friends, which, by the way, Dr. Fryer, if you would like a Claude API key to play with it on a local, like anything LLM or one of those tools, I'd be happy to spin you up one. But this is a way to get access to multiple models, cheaply. But Summarize with ChatGPT, great Chrome plugin, and it's an example of a very practical thing AI can do to help you out on a daily basis.
When I clicked install the extension, it says, add it. It can, quote, read and change all your data on all websites.
Yes.
Which,
Yes.
It sounds like a bit of a large grant there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Dr. Fryer, where can people find you on the internets?
I am at wesfryer.com. I have recently updated some of my social stuff, and wesfryer.com/after has kind of a comprehensive list of Facebook pages, as well as all these other social media channels that I am sharing. But my favorite right now is certainly Blue Sky, although I'm not giving up on Mastodon. How about you, Dr. Neiffer?
Yeah, the best place to find me is probably on Blue Sky. I'm Neiffer on Blue Sky and Mastodon. Also, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and also a bit on Threads. But hey, this isn't about us individually. This is the EdTech Situation. We're a once-a-week podcast that kind of turns into every other week when the going gets tough. But we're on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, sometime in the middle of the night UTC. Hey, we'd love it if you join us live. We'd love to give a shout out to you if you happen to be live via YouTube is the place to do that. But if you can't join us live, you can always see past episodes on YouTube or Facebook. You can also go to our website, edtechsr.com, check out the links from this week's show, or download tiny MP3s of the podcast, or you can find us wherever finer podcasts are aggregated. We hope you have a wonderful week. Stay safe, stay savvy. We will see you next time on the EdTech Situation Room. Good night.
Good night, everybody.